Welcome to our cottage in Grand Bend.
Just purchased about 6 months ago for $1.15 million, and we are tearing it down. And what we asked for on this was $1 million vendor take back at a 3-year term at a 3.99% interest rate.
Originally we started just putting it on Airbnb and seeing what we got, but I started actually posting on Facebook buy and sell groups. More than half of our bookings come from these private bookings. I get, probably sometimes 150 messages a day through Facebook on people looking for cottage rentals.
We also get a chance to do a little bit more diligence on these people.
True.
Because we have access to their Facebook profile. When I was able to pick this up at 1.3, that means I bought 10 townhouses in Cambridge for $130,000. So when I purchased this property, the NOI, the net operating income on it, was $46,000.
What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here. Do you guys remember all the amazing videos we've made with Kyle Ford? Well, whether you do or you don't, you're in luck, because we put together an amazing compilation video of some of our best times with Kyle. And in particular, in this video, we're going to be talking about some of those beautiful cottages he's got in Grand Bend, Ontario, as well as we're going to be looking at that beautiful 10-plex he had in Cambridge, and really just looking at the BRRRR project that was involved with that. But in essence, what we've done is gone back through all our footage, found some little moments that you guys have never seen before, plus clipped in our favorite moments from the previous videos to create this one massive compilation video. If you guys are a fan of Kyle Ford, you're not going to want to miss this, or if you're just a fan of Canadian real estate investing. So let's jump into it, smash that like button. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Hey everybody, I'm Kyle Ford from BRRRRing Real Estate and Canada's Mortgage Choice.
And I'm Chelsea Middleton from Simply Paradise Home Staging and Interior Design.
We're here in Grand Bend, Ontario, where Chelsea and I bought our first cottage just over a year ago. Little did we know that in that year we'd be on to our third cottage and building our retirement plan and lifestyle dream up here in this beautiful location. To the right here, I don't know how far you are, to the right here is actually a section of our one cottage, 150 by 65 foot section. That's a private beach that's owned by our one cottage. So if you ever saw the picture of Justin Bieber here in Grand Bend, he was actually sitting right about where we are. So next time you're here, Justin, come see us across the road here. So if you check out the location that we have here, you can see this is the main cottage just behind us, where the beach is out front, and this is our garage on the back. What we're looking to do when we redesign this cottage is maximize our building space back here, so getting rid of this dead zone that we have and turning this into square footage, usable square footage, so we can maximize our year-round vacation rentals. So, to put this into perspective, our new cottage is going to start about 10 feet behind us there and go all the way out to where the front of this cottage is going to be. To put it into perspective for you, this is a very long, narrow lot. So we're going to have a 2-story cottage with a walkout basement and a drive-in garage. And we're targeting in the 3,000 to 3,500 square foot range for this property.
Yeah, so some of the things that we want to do in order to make this a 4-season rental property is we want to actually in the basement area, put a games room, pool table maybe, foosball, ping pong, some dartboards, and then have that basement area walk out to a hot tub, which really helps for those year-round rentals and help us generate some income in the off-season as well.
So Grand Bend is definitely known for its beaches, so that's what we're going to emphasize here. The cottage is going to be, as I mentioned, 2 stories. On the top level, it's going to have 2 master suites facing out over the water, and on the back half of the cottage, it's going to have 4 smaller bedrooms. The reason why we're doing it like this is we want these bedrooms to make sure everybody has a queen bed with small end tables. There's not going to be a ton of room around them, but it's going to basically be so everyone has a comfortable place to sleep. We're going to have a bathroom on the back. So on the top floor, we're targeting 6 beds, 3 baths. When you come down to the main floor, if you want to come on with me out front here. So when we come down to the main floor of the property, the front of the cottage is going to be out here with the big kitchen, dining area, and a grand room. as well as the back half of the cottage is going to include a third master suite. This property is owned by myself, my sister, and my mom, and we want to make sure that all three of us have a master bedroom to stay in. Specifically, as my mom ages, we want to make sure that one of those is on the main floor. Below that, we're going to have the garage is going to come in, where you drive into the garage on the lower level. The games room will be down into here, and it's going to also walk out onto the main level here. When we originally designed this property, we were going to add a rooftop patio to it. Maybe a little bit excited in the beginning, but we've decided to really emphasize one of the most exclusive things that we have on this property, which is right out in front here. You can see this fenced off area is a total of 150 by 65 feet, and this is a private beach exclusive to this cottage. This is located in one of the most premier spots in Grand Bend, and rather than putting people upstairs on a rooftop patio, we want them to be downstairs enjoying the beach.
You guys have heard me talk about A, B, and C offers. Well, that's exactly what Kyle did with his $1.15 million cottage that we're standing in right now. It's actually a teardown, but what I find fascinating is the way you went about negotiating this deal. So if you don't mind, I know the audience could learn a lot. Absolutely.
So what we did was we went with a double offer strategy. The idea of this strategy is to figure out what the motivation of the seller is. Are they looking for price, or are they looking for terms? Are they looking for cash now? Or if they can get more cash by holding on a little bit longer, are they willing to wait? So we had a bit of an inside scoop here. This is a small community. We found out a little bit about the sellers before. We understand that this is not their only property, and they weren't necessarily looking to sell the property because they didn't love it. They weren't looking to sell the property because they needed the money. They were looking to sell it because they just didn't want to deal with the maintenance anymore.
Gotcha.
So with that little bit of information, that's where I kind of had the feeling that a VTB could be in play here. So what we did is we wrote this up as two separate offers, and you talk to some agents and they'll say this is illegal, you can't do it. Get yourself a new agent, because this is absolutely totally legal. So what we did is we did two offers. The first offer, first of all, the asking price of the property was $1.3 million. So the first offer we came in at, it had been listed for some time, we came in at $1 million. It was 60-day close, and we just put a condition on home inspection. We communicated with them that we understand that the property is older. We just wanted some time to go through it and make sure that there wasn't any massive surprises. So with the second offer, what we did is we did a $1.1 million ask, so $100,000 more, 90-day close, a little bit longer closing, same conditional upon home inspections. With this strategy, it was the idea that we were going to develop the property, so we wanted conditional on being able to attain building permits. And what we asked for in this was $1 million vendor take back at a 3-year term at a 3.99% interest rate. So very similar offers, but obviously if somebody's willing to hold the financing, we can pay a little bit more for the property.
So I'm sure the audience has a bunch of different questions. I think question number one is, how do you go about trying to learn more about a seller?
Depending if you're dealing directly with the seller or if you have a great realtor. In this scenario, it's a smaller town. We have a great realtor.
Local to the area.
Local to the area, and he was able to just ask the questions. He told them a lot about us, who we were, that we'd owned a property across the street already, that we were looking to expand, that we do other investments. So we offered to meet the seller in this scenario, but the seller was more interested in the numbers. They weren't interested in the emotional side. They were interested in their security, which was their property, and what our exit strategy was on this.
And then, so when you're making two offers, are you like including a cover letter, or are you having your realtor make a bit of an explanation about why you're making two offers? How do you go about that?
So right when we found out the seller wasn't really interested in meeting us, we didn't think a cover letter was going to help us. It sounded like it was more about the numbers. So we just had our realtor do some selling on the fact that this is not our first deal. The one, as we go out, we'll get into the counter offer here, but in the counter offer, the one thing that they added was a net worth statement. They wanted to see who we were financially, not so much emotionally. So obviously not an issue for us. Whenever you're doing any type of private lending, I shouldn't say whenever, most time when you're doing private lending, private borrowing, they're going to want a personal guarantee from you anyways. So I'm happy to disclose what I have to somebody specifically in those scenarios.
Makes sense. And so They didn't accept either offer.
They didn't accept either offer, which is okay. I like to say there's the 4 tiers. There's the big yes, the little yes, the little no, and the big no. What I'm looking for in every deal is I want a little no. A big no means you've insulted the seller and you maybe aren't going to be able to do business. A little no means nice try, you're going to have to try something new. So we got a little no on this, which basically came back at, they actually countered both offers.
Interesting.
So they came, which told me a lot was they don't really, there's not a specific motivation. These people will take the cash if they could take the cash. They'll take the vendor take back, if that makes sense. But their motivation is they want as close to this number as possible. That's the number they got in their head. Yeah. So how do we make that happen?
Gotcha.
So what they came back is on the cash offer, they came back with 1.1. All other conditions the same.
Same. So that really identified to you that it's really about the money there, the fact that they didn't try and tweak any other conditions.
Exactly. When they came back on this one, they did adjust some of the conditions to make it similar. They came back at 1.2 here. They adjusted this to the same 60 days. So 60 days, they got rid of the permits, and they were okay with all of our other terms here. Now, what the seller didn't know is in this scenario, without getting into private capital or anything like that, we had 150 grand. That's what we had to contribute to this deal. Because the property is not 4-season, it's not insulated property, it doesn't have a heat source, it's not financeable. You can't get a conventional mortgage there. So as a mortgage broker, I was aware of that, not really sure if the seller was. So this is really, even though I was willing, if I could get the price right on the cash side, I was willing to raise private money to do this. I wanted the VTB. Yeah. But I only had 150 grand. So going back to the fact that I knew they didn't need the money today, what we did is we came back and countered at 1.15 M, and we did a $50,000 deferred bonus on payout. Okay. So I gave him his 1.2. Gotcha. But he doesn't get the other 50 until we refi at the end of this deal when we've done construction again. So it goes back to finding out the motivation. He didn't need the money. What I did find out is he wanted, there was a, he had to pay real estate commissions, and he had some capital gains as well to pay. Even though he was doing the VTB, he had some cash out of his pocket. So he wanted, at least if he was giving me $1 million VTB, 150 was his minimum number that he needed to pay his real estate, pay his land transfers,
cover his obligations.
Yeah, he didn't want to take any money out of his pocket to close the deal, but he wasn't concerned about the $1 million VTB. He didn't need that.
And that's a big point Kyle made there that I'd really like to just hit home for the audience. So most sellers are going to really have a problem paying out of pocket, right, in order to actually close or execute on a deal. So that's where, you know, understanding the tax implications of what you're asking for and things like that, because what's great with a VTB, he could defer a lot of those tax obligations.
Absolutely. If you're dealing with a seller directly, getting 100% VTB is more likely. If there's a realtor involved and you're getting a VTB, the seller is going to need to pay that real estate commission. Let's call it 5%. And as Matt mentioned, the seller doesn't want to sell you a property and go to the bank to pay the real estate check. Exactly. So I've completed now 2 VTBs, both times with realtors involved, and both times we're at 90%. Yeah. This one approximately, I think, a little bit higher than 90, or in the 90% range. So they want to see you put a little bit of skin in the game. They want to make sure they're not covering any expenses out of their pocket. But if you can make sense from a tax perspective, you can find out the motivation of the seller. They're comfortable with 3.99. The $50,000 deferred at the end, that helps them as well. So they're comfortable in this range. So they were. That's how we did the deal.
I love it. So one other question I know a lot of people are going to have is, okay, so this isn't a year-round cottage. I'm going to guess it probably doesn't cash flow very well at that purchase price. How scary was it to lose the building permits?
To be honest with you, we're okay with it. We really do trust our realtor up here, not Justin Conoco with Prime Brokerage. Very, very knowledgeable realtor. Really guided us through this process, start to finish. He was constantly going down to the building department. We got a really good feel. Do we have full permits of what we want to build right now? No, we do not. But we're confident in being able to build a structure here that will support a high valuation as an exit strategy. You know, we had the chance to go around and look at some of the cottages in the area. 2 doors down has a helicopter pad on the roof. So if the neighbor two doors down was able to get a helicopter pad on their roof, we're pretty confident in our ability to get permits for what we're looking to do.
Yeah, and again, I think it really comes down to having the right team members, right? You know, having that realtor go down, already probably having a relationship with the city hall and being able to talk to the building inspectors or the building permit department. That's what really is going to give you, you know, the comfort, if not the 100% certainty to move forward.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So one other question that I know the audience is going to ask is, how did you decide this? How did you decide that a VTB was worth $100,000 more? Why not $200,000 or $50,000?
My lenders that I use for a lot of my other deals typically are in the 10% range. Okay. So I knew I could borrow the $1 million at 10%. So that was my quick math.
I love it. That was a very concise answer.
Yeah.
So again, just for you guys, obviously 10% holding this 1 year, that's going to be 1.1 million, 1.1 here, almost, you know, an interest rate that doesn't matter. Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. And people ask me all the time, which one did you want? Candidly, I wanted the VTB just because I I kind of got it in my head and I wanted it. But at the end of the day, in terms of my actual numbers here of how this worked, it doesn't really matter. If I could have picked up this property for 1.05, $100,000 less, borrowed it privately for a year and done my construction, I probably would be in the same position. The nice thing about the VTB is on the 3-year term, it's given me some flexibility. We were originally going to build 6 months after purchase because our 10-unit building that you and I have seen, you've seen and we've gone through, because of that building, we want that to be fully complete and done, just so we're not restrained by capital when we're building our dream home. I mentioned to you, Matt, that this property is yes, an investment and going to be an investment property for us, but my family is, in the last 5 years that we've been investing in real estate, we've taken risks, we've taken on debt, we've had some stressful nights in that time period. So this cottage, this vacation rental is kind of our light at the end of the tunnel. Our
reward to yourself.
Yes, exactly. So we want to make sure we can build what we want, and it's going to be our dream home. So the 3-year term has given us the flexibility not to rush into construction. So in hindsight, I'm very glad I got the VTB, but when we were making the offers, it really made no difference to me what we got.
Yeah, I really do love the flexibility that having that extended time period gives you, just because you're not going to rush in, you're not going to make mistakes because you're just tight on time, all of that. I love the approach you took on this, and I know this is inspiring me to make some more offers, and I hope it inspires you guys to make more offers too.
Yep. If I can add one more thing here, Matt, the number one thing people ask is, how do you get these things? Ask.
Yes.
You need to ask people, you need to explain it to them. The other thing, I actually knew that I found out in our due diligence, in our pre-offer situation, that the seller's son was an accountant.
Okay.
One strategy that I recommend to a lot of people when offering VTBs, and this means a little bit of money out of your pocket on properties you might not buy. When we offer a VTB on a property, we offer a $300 non-refundable payment to the seller to have our offer reviewed by an accountant.
That is genius. I've never heard of someone doing that. In the past, I've had my accountant reach out and talk to them, but that's even better because it's going to give them really the trust to reach out to someone that they know and already have a working relationship with.
Yeah.
That's genius.
Yeah, and it could mean spending $300 that you're not getting back. I've never had somebody actually take my $300.
Yeah.
I've just offered it. They went and talked to their accountant. Their accountant didn't charge them, explained to them the benefits, and they came back. Now we're in a relationship, or now we're in a negotiation where they trust me, which is one of the greatest assets you can have in any negotiation.
That's an amazing tip, guys. Take notes. Hey YouTube, have you been thinking about becoming a wholesaler, but not sure how to get started? Maybe you've got no money. Maybe you're just a little scared to get out of the gate. Well, I had Ammar from my wholesale team. He started and did his first deal in his first 68 days, made $25,000 as his first gross wholesale fee, write an ebook. So in this 20-page ebook, Ammar breaks down for you step by step how he went and knocked over 2,100 doors to make $25,000. Completely free ebook. Just want to pay it forward to you guys. If you're interested in grabbing it, we'll throw a link in the video description down below. Grab your copy of Ammar's ebook today. In today's video, Kyle Ford breaks down for us how to operate a vacation rental. Now, I know a lot of people struggle with the idea of vacation rentals because usually you think you only have 12 good months to rent the property. But in fact, Kyle breaks down some alternative strategies to really juice up your cash flow and make sure that you can get that vacation rental property cash flowing. In fact, he takes us through a tour of his Grand Bend vacation rental in this video as well. When it comes to vacation rentals, a lot of people naturally assume Airbnb is the only platform. One of the things I found really interesting about your guys' strategy is the fact that you're not actually relying on Airbnb for all your bookings.
Right.
Do you mind kind of diving into that for us?
Yeah, so originally we started just putting it on Airbnb and seeing what we got, but I started actually posting on Facebook buy and sell groups and Facebook Marketplace, and honestly I would say more than half of our bookings come from these private bookings.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts, and I get, you know, probably sometimes 150 messages a day through Facebook on people looking for cottage rentals. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's a really interesting technique, and the moment I heard that, the first thing that comes to mind is when you're, say, on Airbnb, you can sort by price, or you have that map and it shows all the prices, and I think that triggers a lot of people to naturally become price sensitive and start filtering only on price rather than any other amenities or situational factors. Where on these buy and sells, I feel like people aren't necessarily looking at the price as much as the photos, the experience, and all that.
Totally, and it gives me an opportunity to, you know, talk to people and sell them on the vacation experience as well. So,
and it probably makes you just like, it humanizes it more because it probably feels like there's not just a generic host on the other end. It's really a person with a Facebook account and
exactly.
We also get a chance to do a little bit more diligence on these people.
True.
Because we have access to their Facebook profile.
Yeah.
The other thing we're finding with it is we're getting people who didn't even know they were looking to rent a cottage. They just see it on a buy and sell group while they're looking for a new TV, and they say, "Oh, great! Look at that cottage. That looks great. We'll book it."
I didn't realize I could get it for that price.
Exactly.
Like that.
And it also actually helps too for like, you know, if we're trying to sell a Monday to Friday in September, for example. And people didn't know that you could get a Monday to Friday for that price, like you said. Whereas on Airbnb, they wouldn't outwardly look for those dates because they wouldn't think to. So,
yeah, absolutely. I love it. That's like, I think that's going to change the way I do my short-term rentals, honestly, hearing this, because it makes so much sense to me that, like, that's just a very interesting platform now to be attracting new tenants to. So, love that tip. You guys already saw it's a beautiful cottage on the inside, but it turns out when we look at the numbers, they're not too bad to look at either. So, Kyle, if you don't mind, just dive into it, break down for us the numbers behind this awesome cottage.
Great. So, this was a classic BRRRR strategy for the vacation rental. We purchased the cottage approximately 18 months ago, May of 2018. We purchased it for $436,000. On that, we did a 20% down payment, which is $87,200, which translates to a $348,000 first mortgage. When we bought the cottage, it was in beautiful condition. The owner had passed away, and this was her primary residence. Now, with that being said, it was in beautiful condition, but it was grandma style. Lots of floral, lots of carpet, which running as a vacation rental just doesn't work. So what we did is we updated the cottage. We did new kitchen, new flooring, paint, trim. We didn't go down to the studs by any means, but a lot of cosmetics, value add renovation.
Yeah.
In that time period, over the course of the year when we did the reno, the market has gone up, and we also increased the value. This is the ARV on the cottage now is at $600,000. We're just in the process of completing the refinance at 80% loan to value, which is $480,000.
Yeah.
So
I love it. It's essentially like a pure BRRRR on a vacation rental.
On a vacation rental. So out of the 87 we put down and the 50,000 in reno, our total cash in is 137.2. What we're going to be looking at is $132,000 of cash out and $5,000 of our own money left in this deal.
Yeah.
So when Matt and I have talked here about the difference between the multifamilies and the vacation rentals, certainly I've done multifamilies where I've been able to get 100% out and they've been better performing investments, but I've never been able to find a more affordable way to own a cottage.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. And just for perspective, like literally right behind the camera is the beach. Like this is essentially beachfront property. So it's amazing to think that there's a way to execute on a vacation rental that's essentially beachfront and do a BRRRR at the same time. It's awesome. Absolutely.
So going forward, what that's going to look like for us, our new mortgage payment on this property is going to be $2,100. Annually, that's $25,200. Property taxes are $3,200. The other thing I wanted to note here is I got an insurance at $2,200. For a single-family home, that might seem high.
Yeah.
Now, I want to be very upfront that we are fully disclosed to our insurance agent that this is a short-term rental, which has added a significant premium onto our insurance, but with that being said, we're protected.
Yeah, and this is something I've touched upon in some other videos, but when it comes to insurance, like we don't want to try and pull the wool or trick our insurance company, because the only time we're going to find out we don't have the right coverage is when we're making a claim, and that's the time that you desperately need to have the right coverage. So yeah, I love the fact that you kind of broke that down for us.
Definitely. So what that looks like for us on the back end is our PITI, property principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, is going to be $30,600 on this property. Going forward for our next 12 months, the 12 prime weeks of next summer, we're going to be renting for $31,200. That translates to $2,600 a week. We will be booked solid at that price, with a couple of weeks actually getting a little bit more of a premium than that.
Gotcha.
So at $31,200, you can see we can cover our base expenses. That doesn't include the shoulder seasons. So that's not including May, that's not including June, not including September and October, which we still get quite a bit of rentals in, as well as into the winter months. We actually have people in this area looking for 6-month rentals, which would be about $1,500 a month. So projected gross income for the next 12 months is at $50,000, and we're quite confident we're going to make that, if not a little bit more.
Yeah, I love it. It seems like a no-brainer when you lay things down, but I think a lot of people, when they look at vacation rentals or vacation properties in general, they always just emotionally get attached to it rather than breaking down the numbers and just making sure you can make a great investment of it at the same time.
Absolutely.
This is fantastic. Thanks so much, Kyle.
No problem.
Okay, Internet, I know you love complaining. The audio is probably not going to be perfect on this segment, but the view is, so we're going to put up with it. We're here in Grand Bend, Ontario. We're literally on the sandy beach. Sand's blowing in our face because it's the off season, but guys, look at this view. It's absolutely fantastic. And Kyle and Chesley, I just really appreciate you guys letting us come out here and check out this amazing view.
Happy to have you.
When it comes to short-term rentals, one of the biggest fears people have is, what's the worst case? What's going to happen to our property? What happens if 20 people decide to come and party on the beach, especially with like such a beautiful vacation rental? So I'd love to hear your guys' just honest experiences. What's been kind of the worst thing that's happened so far running a vacation rental?
Quite honestly, we've had a ton of positive experiences. We even have some renters that leave our cottage in amazing condition and clean the whole time they're there, but we also have had you know, some groups. We had one in particular, was it Canada Day? Yeah, Canada Day weekend. And they had about 30 people partying at the cottage. So obviously they were only supposed to have 10. They had 30. This was a booking through Airbnb. They ended up breaking a window. What else did they do? They were
mostly noise complaints that were disrupting to the neighbors and stuff. So at the end of the day, the window that they broke was a $150 replacement. We were able to take the full deposit for that due to our time and energy to fix that. So it was a $600 deposit. And you know, obviously some apologies to the neighbors for that, and making sure we're focused on doing a little bit more vetting on that group, on a group of like that in the future. That would be the only real damage situation we've had. The other complaint, I would say, it would be around garbage. There's limits to how much garbage you can leave in these places.
Right.
And some people leaving a little bit too much garbage can be a bit of a challenge for us. But nonetheless, now we've put safeguards in place that you can speak to.
Yeah. So we've set out very specific garbage rules, and I think one of the biggest things is damage deposits. Like, we've been taking damage deposits even for the private bookings that we do, and it's very, very important to do that, I think, because you can outline in your damage deposit that if somebody leaves too much garbage, that means money is going to be taken from their damage deposit. So I think that kind of scares people, and then they actually just listen. They just do what they're told because they don't want to have to pay that money. So, and
I think that's been part of our growing pain, is you need to be very clear. Our instruction manual started with a one-page document. We're up to a 10-page booklet now. Where the questions that we didn't know people would ever ask, or with scenarios we didn't know, we've been able to, our FAQs are so detailed now that people are aware. If they leave garbage, you know, we charge, you know, we put a substantial fee on that where nobody's going to leave their garbage. So
I think, that's a great point. Just building the incentives in the right manner, right, to get people to behave appropriately. I love it. And I just love the fact that the more short-term rental hosts I talk to, the more we seem to realize that, like, a lot of these worst-case scenarios don't actually happen to our properties if we're properly vetting the people, if we're setting expectations from the start, and then if you're building house rules that are aligning both the host and the guest's interest.
Absolutely.
I'm sure the audience is really curious, and I'm very curious. When you're booking guests outside of Airbnb, so when you're finding someone on, say, Facebook Marketplace, buy and sell, how do you guys go about that process? How are you, like, getting, you know, how do you feel comfortable not booking with Airbnb?
Yeah, so we do have a rental agreement that we put together, and we would send it through HelloSign, which is like an e-doc signing service. And yeah, so that's kind of how we do that.
How did you guys go about finding or building the right template for a short-term rental contract or agreement?
It started with a furnished rental contract that I had from other furnished rentals I did in the city. We made some amendments to it. We had a lawyer check it over, make sure it's accomplishing what we want.
Awesome.
Key things that we're looking for is we want to make sure that there's no tie-in to a relation to anything to do with the LTB, the Landlord-Tenant Board. It's got to be an exclusive agreement for a short-term stay.
Gotcha.
So there's some wording in there and some verbiage that was put in there by our lawyer to make sure it was done properly. And the second part of that is when we spoke about 16 Pine, our other rental. You need to disclose that this is a short-term rental to your insurance company to make sure you're covered for this. So Airbnb has some great protection built into it, but having proper insurance on the property, if, you know, God forbid there's a fire, major damage, anything like that, we want to make sure we're properly insured, being that there's a short-term guest in the property.
Awesome. And so how does payment collection and all that work when you're not doing it through Airbnb?
Yeah, so we actually accept everything via e-transfer. Which seems to work really well.
And are you guys collecting a security deposit or a damage deposit up front?
Yeah, so we actually ask for it a little bit closer to the check-in date. Just because it gets complicated with your banking. You don't want to have the $500 in your account and then have to send it back after. So we do ask for it about 3 days, a week to 3 days in advance of their booking, so that they're not sending it us all at once, and it's easier on the guests too, not having to put as much money out front.
And for our next season coming up, we're looking at taking credit cards. We feel that we can get more money paid up front when they have the ability to put on a credit card. Also, it's also from the guest perspective. There are a couple people who are a little concerned when they're booking through Facebook. Is this a scam? So a lot of them want to book on their credit card just as an additional security. If somebody was doing this fraudulently, that they would be protected on their credit card. So I think from our perspective, by accepting credit card, it'll increase our revenue, as well as give our guests additional security when booking without using a traditional site.
Yeah, I love the creativity you guys are implementing here, just with your different strategies and approaches to these vacation rentals. Like, my staff, we're definitely going to start doing Facebook buy and sells. That's a thing.
Thanks everyone for checking out our cottages, and if you want to follow any of our content, you can follow me on Instagram, SP Home Staging and Design, and then yeah.
Or you can check out our website, vacay, as in Southern Ontario, vacayrentals.com. And if you're looking to rent a place in Grand Bend or invest in Grand Bend, come chat with us. We'd love to help you guys out.
Hey YouTube, did you know that I've got an education company? I'm gonna guess you didn't, because a lot of you guys DM me asking if I do. So it's called Cashflow Tribe. You can go to www.cashflowtribe.com, check it out. You can sign up for a completely free membership. There's also a premium membership that has all kinds of great features that you can unlock. But just go check out the free membership. You've got a calculator you can use online completely free. You've got Canada's most robust online forums for real estate investors. And you've got some great resources and some free, completely free courses that you can get. And all you need to do is sign up for your free membership. It's an amazing network of Canadian real estate investors, and I hope you guys go grab your free membership today. In today's video, Kyle Ford, who's a mortgage broker, real estate investor, and all-around great guy, is going to break down for us exactly what's going on in this 10-plex he's working on. Fantastic project, guys, and we get deep into the numbers on this one, so you're not going to want to miss it. All right, Kyle, one of the biggest questions I get on my YouTube channel all the time is, first of all, people love the idea of this, right? A giant 10-plex, but do you get the financing first? Do you need to find the deal first? How do you put that all together? Say, you know, you've been a real estate investor for a while and you've decided, okay, I'm going to get into bigger commercial deals now. Where do you start?
Well, I think the day you become a real estate investor is the day you start finding financing. You need to be making it known to everybody in your natural market, networking events that you go to, your social media market, that you're a real estate investor, you're looking for deals, you're open to partnerships, and you're willing to provide a great return for people who are willing to finance deals. So I think from day one you need to be raising capital for this business. Yeah. When it comes to moving into multifamily, I think actually large multifamily, commercial, 6 units up, you definitely need to be in touch with a mortgage broker and understanding the financing, understanding what they're looking for. Are you going to need a phase 1 environmental? Are you going to, you know, some lenders require a home inspection for this stuff? That could mean you could spend $5,000 to $10,000 on a deal that you don't do. So there's some understanding that up front and what they're going to require. For this specific deal, I was able to acquire it knowing that I knew why, because I understood the financing, I knew why all the other deals were falling apart. So I was able to structure my financing different that allowed me to close within their 2-week time period that they wanted to get into this deal. So I think you absolutely need to understand the financing and be raising capital from day one in the business. But at the end of the day, every lender is going to want to see the deal before they give you a commitment. I've almost never heard of anybody buying one of these buildings firm. You know, if you're buying a townhouse in a hot area of any market, you might have to go firm to get it. I've never heard of that on a multi, not saying it doesn't happen. So you're going to have at least some level of some time to get your financing together. With that being said, a lot of people talk about when you do commercial, they don't care about your personal income. That doesn't mean you don't need to have your documents together.
This is really important.
You need to have your personal stuff together. They're going to look at it. It just means the debt service ratios aren't based on your line 150 of your T1 general or your T4 income. But they want to see that you can put your own food on the table. They want to see that maybe you have some experience. Do you own some smaller properties? Yeah. Have you been able to professionally manage those properties and be profitable? Because that's part of some of their criteria depending on the lender. So even though the building isn't qualified based on your personal income, they're still looking at you.
Yeah, so it's really important that we get all our information ready so that when the deal comes, we can execute fast.
Absolutely. When you're talking to the seller of these properties, there could be $1 million on the table for them. that they're going to get paid out on this deal. So at the end of a 30-day financing condition, if you weren't able to get your shit together for financing, you know, there's $1 million that they're waiting on. They're not going to wait for you. This isn't Bob and Mary homeowner sitting around who's like, oh, no problem. It seems like a nice kid. He's going to get it together. We'll give him the weekend. No, this is could be an astute investor who's got their 100-unit deal lined up that needs their money. So you need to have your stuff together too.
So Kyle Ford has a 10-plex that he's completely gutting right now in Cambridge, and he's going to show it all to us right now. Let's check it out. First of all, thank you, Kyle.
No problem, man. So come on through here.
So this is kind of laid out as townhouses, right?
Yeah, so these are full townhouses throughout the entire building. Essentially, there's one common hallway here, and I have 5 units on either side. The 4 corner units are all 3-bedroom. Go ahead, keep working, guys. There's 4 3-bedroom units and 6 2-bedroom units. So as we go through here, we can start on the left side. Well, I'll actually just point out, if you missed here, this is another thing that I learned. When you're upgrading these buildings, you need to update fire code. So this is a whole monitoring system. So if there's ever a fire here, the fire department can come in and they're able to tell exactly what unit is going to be in. Very cool, not cheap. So this is the first unit here. This is a 3-bedroom unit. When we purchased this building, things were very, very basic. A lot of vinyl flooring, linoleum, carpet. When we do our rentals, we like to have carpet-free units. We use an engineered laminate. I'm very lucky to have a girlfriend who's an interior designer, so she picks nice finishes for me, which really attract a top market rent and a great tenant profile. So throughout, I'll show you in the next unit, but we do contemporary trim. For this, we're doing all white kitchens, gray paint, pardon me.
Essentially, just all the finishes are standard, so all the exact same kitchens.
Everything is the exact same. So when you're doing something of this scale in terms of management, it's a real pain. If you have, well, unit 417 is this color, unit 415 is this color, that one's put in the wrong place. So in terms of managing this and scaling this project, everything is the same. Every bathroom has the exact same tile, every backsplash is the exact same, every kitchen appliance is the exact same. That's also great from a leasing perspective. Our first unit is about 2 weeks away from being complete. That unit's going to be fully cleaned and fully staged. We're going to be able to take all the pictures of that and market one unit and use basically a model suite to pre-fill other units before they're done. So this is going to reduce our vacancy and at the end of the day increase our cash flow on the project.
And so I'm guessing you had to or you negotiated in bulk for a lot of the materials?
Yeah, well, so when you start ordering 10 of everything, you start dealing with different departments in certain places. I believe we have some footage of the 52-foot trailer that's just outside. That's the first time I've ever bought a trailer full of stuff. I still remember when I ordered it from the guy, he was telling me, he's like, who's going to unload the trailer? I was like, okay, well, I'll get my guys there on site, but is all my stuff going to be at the front? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, is there other people's stuff is going to be on the trailer? He's like, no, Kyle, you bought the whole trailer. It's all your stuff. So that was kind of a cool experience for me. And I thought it was going to be a lot more. It was $450 for them to leave the trailer. $450 to deliver, $450 for them to leave a trailer. This is something that I wasn't, that wasn't a cost that I had expected. I've always been able to buy my material and just bring it inside. But a project of this magnitude, having outside of unit storage saves the guys from just moving stuff around all the time. If I'm paying them to move things twice, that's coming right out of my bottom line. So
awesome. All right, so now Kyle's going to dive into the numbers with us, but before we even get into the numbers, let's just talk about how this property came up. Was it MLS, private deal? Where do you find a 10 unit for 1.3?
Yeah, so this property was listed on the MLS. It was listed for several months, originally at 1.7 million.
Okay.
There were several offers on the property at that point, but the sellers were being very unrealistic about their expectations. They wanted a 2-week conditional period.
Yeah.
As you know, in commercial properties, very unrealistic. Just the commercial financing alone takes 30 days. So offers kept being accepted at much higher prices, but the deals were falling through. When this deal was brought to me, it was priced at 1.5 million. One of the realtors that I work with and I have a great relationship knew the listing agent and divulged some information that the property, that they were motivated to sell. And I was essentially told that if I could get this number, 1.3 million, on paper and close and be firm, pardon me, within 2 weeks, they would take the deal. So the property originally listed for 1.7 was listed at 1.5, and I was able to get an offer firm at 1.3.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, often we find with sellers that if they've had a couple offers fall through, usually they start to get really tired by the process and fatigued. So if you can come in fast and clean, they'll usually be much more receptive, even if we are coming in at a lower price.
Absolutely, absolutely. And their big concern, because every other deal had fallen through, was the financing. And as I mentioned, you can't get commercial financing in 2 weeks. So for us on this deal, what we were able to do is we were able to secure a private lender. So on this deal, it was 100% funded out of somebody's RRSP.
That's cool.
It was very cool. Because of that, I was able to get deferred payments for an entire year on the project. Which as we go through this, you're going to understand the importance of that, because not only did we have to empty out the building and pay 3 months rent to every tenant, we also don't have any income coming in for that entire period. So servicing the debt would definitely be a challenge.
Yeah, that would really impact your cash flow. It looks like there's a lot of other costs other than just the purchase price we need to consider on these big deals. Do you mind just kind of breaking down for us, Kyle?
Yeah, absolutely. The purchase price in the building was 1.3. Closing costs were approximately $25,000. Your land transfer ticket on a property like this adds up. It does. I've done many triplexes, many smaller buildings. This was a little bit tougher pill to swallow, but at the end of the day, definitely worthwhile. This is a big line, which is why a lot of people wouldn't do this deal. On this purchase, as I mentioned, I had 1 year deferred payments. That's not free.
Yeah.
I paid a $150,000 lender fee on this property.
So for people that are kind of new to the idea of getting into bigger deals, like that at first is going to be a shocking number. Do you mind breaking, like, what does that actually look like? What's that? Why do you pay that?
So in this scenario, the reason why is the loan to value they were offering. They were offering over 100% loan to value. Yeah. So what is that worth not using any of your own capital? I think a lot. Divided by a lot. So the $150,000 lender fee was a big pill to swallow in the beginning, but it allowed me to do a deal that, in my opinion, didn't exist. Without paying that fee, I would have had to put at least 35% down. Yeah. Probably not been able to get the deal in the first place, because I wouldn't have been able to get confirmation of financing in 2 weeks. Yeah. Then when the tenants were removed, I would have had to carry a mortgage payment. And then as you can see, the massive renovation that's going on, not only am I paying trades, I'd still be servicing that debt. So though this was a tough pill to swallow, the deal didn't exist without it. And as we get lower on, I think you're going to see that that's not the end of the world. So the $200,000 in interest, that's based on a $2 million total loan. So not only is the purchase price financed, but the renos and the fee is also financed as well. So when I purchased this property, the NOI, the net operating income on it, was $46,000. I'd have to double check my numbers, but I believe that was priced out at about a 3 cap. Oh, okay. So it wasn't being sold based on the cap rate.
It was on potential they were trying to sell.
On potential and cost per unit. Okay. This is what I was able to pick this up at 1.3. That means I bought 10 townhouses in Cambridge for $130,000. Per unit. So I was buying based on the cost per unit, but when I refinance, I'm going to be refinancing based on the cap rate.
Okay. And so before we get into cap rates, do you mind renos? So $600,000. Yep. How do you go about figuring out the scope or the budget on something like this? And do you know where most of that money is spent?
Yeah, 1 unit at a time. So focus on your cost per single unit, and then extrapolate that. So I've done several flips, and I've done several apartment rentals. So I know when I renovate a 800 square foot apartment, cost me about $25,000. Okay. But my hands are pretty clean. I'm not doing the work here, I'm hiring this out. So about $25,000 per unit to renovate. Okay. So these are townhouses. I've flipped several townhouses or semis. I was typically in the $40,000 to $50,000 range per unit. So some experience was able to help me cost this out pretty quickly. The $600,000 in reno, I should actually put a comma there. It also includes a bit of the tenant buyout as well. So some of the cash for keys that I was able to do. And the final about $75,000 of that is for exterior renovations to the building. Concrete steps are coming out. We're doing nice decks with storage underneath. One thing with the building prior to this, because there's no garages here, garbage was outside. And even the cleaner units, garbage cans, green bins, recycling, it looks kind of trashy.
Piles up,
no pun intended with the trashy. But we're going to be able to put nice decks with under storage.
I love that.
Just clean up the exterior of the building.
And that's great, just like thinking long term, right? Because what's the plan with this? Is the idea you're going to flip it, or are you keeping it?
I call it flip to myself, or BRRRR.
Yeah.
So the plan is definitely to keep the property, hold long term. As we get into the BRRRR numbers, you'll see that not only will we get our cash out of this deal, we're going to have a significant equity position in the property, and it's still even at the higher mortgage amount, the much larger mortgage payment, we're still going to get a positive cash flow every month. So
a lot of my audience will be familiar with the idea of BRRRRs on, say, a single family or duplex. How do you go, like, what's the difference when we're BRRRRing such a large multifamily unit building?
Tenant turnover side.
Yeah.
It's more expensive to turn tenants over on the commercial side. If you have a small building, it's 2 months rent, or 1 month's rent, 60 days notice. On a larger building, it's 4 months notice, 3 months rent.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more capital outlay. But other than that, it's very much the same. Just like you're doing it if you were to do it on a single family townhouse, you're just doing 10 that all happen to be neighbors.
Yeah.
So it's this exact same process, just multiplied.
Okay, and so with something like this, you know, we're financing privately. Do we need to worry about like seasoning or waiting a year before refinancing?
So in my experience, what I found is I prefer closing with a private loan. What I find is if you go back to the same lender in the first year, sometimes they're a little bit uncomfortable refinancing your mortgage amount to higher than your purchase price, which in this case will definitely be the case. So because I've closed privately and I'm going to be taking this to a different lender at the time, I'm not concerned with any seasoning period or anything along those lines. And with that all being said, my timeline is a year on this. So I closed January 4th. The building's going to be fully occupied by December 1st.
Awesome.
So that's, by the time it's occupied, 30 to 60 days for financing. I'm right in that year range anyways.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that you need to be aware of. But I think if you can bring a solid, 10 brand new leases, I'm going to support that. They're probably not going to ask, but I'm going to support that with first and last month bank deposits to support my rents.
Just to show.
So being that I work in the finance world and the mortgage world, I'm really going to make sure I bring a very clean file to my lender.
Yeah. So let's talk about what's our valuation. How do we determine it on large multifamilies?
So on these, every lender is going to be different. First of all, they all have their different rules. When you're dealing with more the big 5 banks on commercial lending, they're going to use a combination of a couple things: comparable sales, cost per unit, and cap rate. If you use more monoline lenders or trust companies, still talking about very good rates, still talking about very good loan to values, they're willing to evaluate the buildings differently. So specifically, I'm focusing on having this refied with a trust company, because they will take a straight cap rate appraisal. They're not going to look at my cost per unit. If we look at the cost per unit, it would be a much higher than any comparable sale, but my cap rate is in line with every single one of those sales. So I need to make sure I'm using a lender that is going to just go off my my income of the property.
Okay, awesome. So you've kind of laid out for us a couple different cap rates. Do you mind walking us through? So
just to note here, on the purchase, as I mentioned, $46,000 was the NOI. The average rent per unit was about $1,000 inclusive.
Yeah, which is crazy low.
It's very, very low. As in, these are full townhouses. There's 4 3-bedrooms and 6 2-bedroom townhouses here. So when we're done on this, the 3 bedrooms will be renting for $1,950 plus utilities. The 2 bedrooms will be renting for $1,850 plus utilities. That's going to bring my net. What I've been able to do is there were some water heater rentals, got rid of those. Anything that I could to all the expenses being passed on to the tenants, anything I could to really reduce my expenses has resulted in an estimated, like I haven't filled it yet, I'm very confident on this, estimated NOI at $175,000.
That's massive value add.
We're close to triple, not quite there. Close to quadruple even. Jeez. So when we talk about those numbers, so we're here in Cambridge, Ontario right now, we're seeing most properties trading under 5% in terms of a cap rate. That's very, very common, under 5% on the cap rate. So on my first estimate here, I'm using a 5.8 cap. This is, as I believe, very conservative, which translates to, based on this net operating income, a value of the property of $3 million. So in that scenario, our total invested with the private loans, interest and fees is $2.2 million, or $2,275,000. At an 80% loan to value on the $3 million, we're going to get a $2.4 million mortgage. We're going to have very positive cash flow on that, pay out all of our loans, and put $125,000 into what I like to call HIP National Bank. That's my pocket.
Love it. Yeah, and like it's shocking, but when you really start breaking down the numbers, it makes sense, right? The income supports it.
Yeah, and if we go back to that, even that cost per unit argument, now we're talking about a $300,000 townhouse in Cambridge. Yeah. They're trading well in the fours at this point, so those metrics make sense.
Gotcha.
This is really my minimum on this deal. This is where I want to be. This is where I believe I'm going to land. Is at a 5% cap rate. Yeah, that equates a $3.5 million value. That's going to put $525,000 into our corporate bank account. Still have a $700,000 equity position, and we still have positive cash flow on those numbers.
And then let's get into, you know, if we get...
This is a very respected realtor that I know in this area, has priced properties at this cap rate and done projects at this cap rate. So this is kind of my happy dance. I'm pretty happy at any of these actually, but this is my very, very happy dance. That's at 3.8, which once again, the numbers in this area can support a 4.6 cap. So in that scenario, we're talking about putting 725 in our pocket. And once again, very important, when it comes to the BRRRR model, you're not BRRRRing if you're not positive cash flow on the back end.
Agree.
You're just kind of being reckless, in my opinion, refinancing yourself into a negative cash flow. Even at this numbers, it's modest, but after we budget for vacancy, repair and maintenance, property management, long-term capital repairs, we are still positive cash flow at that mortgage number.
Yeah, this is amazing. Thank you so much, Kyle, for breaking it down in such easy, clear details. And I think this will give my audience a lot to think about. You know, let's not get hung up on dollar amounts. Let's get hung up on the whole big picture, right? Because doing one deal like this, you know, if this was the first deal you were doing in your corporation, let's say we're walking away with like $500,000 to $700,000 in cash, like, wow, we could go out and buy the next property like this and probably get even more favorable terms and really start snowballing the process.
You know, for me on this deal, you know, my lender is very happy. They're obviously doing quite well. The second I pay them back these funds, what are they going to go back to the bank and put it in at 3%? I don't think so. I would, even if I have that money in, I would pay this 100% over again every single time. I have I don't lose any sleep over it anymore. I got to be honest, that consumer mindset when I first did it hurt. Now I'm so far past it. So so we can come down here. The unit across the hall is pretty similar as well. You can see we got a little bit of material here throughout the place. Coming into this unit, this was the unit, the first unit that we had vacant on purchase. So as I mentioned earlier, we do the nice 5-inch contemporary trim in these units. Tenants love it, very modern, gives that new look. If we just come around here, I'll give you, these are one of our smaller kitchens, but you can see here, all white, nice black, modern hardware. We're doing a gray quartz in all the units. And one thing, as I mentioned, Chelsea, my girlfriend, we're doing black hardware and fixtures as well. Very modern, looks very high-end, very classy. So we've been able to, in a lot of my previous units, we were doing IKEA kitchens. They've worked out very well for us. I've been very happy with them. Going back to the scale of the project, we were able to negotiate with a local cabinet company, and we were only about $200 more per unit than IKEA, but that was delivered, assembled, and installed, which is, once again, that's a big win to my bottom line on this project. So I'll take you upstairs here. You can have a peek in here, just looking back at the finishes. This is a flooring that is generally a lot more expensive than what we put into our rental units. We were able to negotiate it for a lesser price than we normally pay. So I think we were picking these up at about $1.85 a square foot for a nice marble tile, which was a very good price for us. Going back to this is just going to really attract that top-end tenant, professional, retiree, somebody who wants a nice unit. Every unit, pardon me, comes with AC, as well as dishwashers and in-suite laundry. These are 3 things that I find are the best to increase maximum rent, as well as length of stay. The #1 reason that I have tenants coming to me is because their current unit doesn't have AC, it doesn't have a dishwasher, so if they're coming to me because they don't have it, they're not leaving me because I do. You can see over here, just into this bedroom as well. very good sized master bedroom, easily fit a king size bed if needed. Going back to finishes, every unit's the exact same. 5-inch trim, gray paint. We do some decent light fixtures. We were able to get a little bit nicer light fixture for about the same price, and tenants seem to really like it. We get people pointing out all the time, oh my god, I love the light fixtures here. It works out well for us.
So how many guys are working at a time right now, Kyle?
There's on average about 10 trucks or vans here. At one point there was more than that, but we typically have one or two plumbing vans, 2 electrical vans, a couple carpentries. It depends on the time, what's going on right now. The entire building has been replumbed. All the electrical has been done, minus the fire system, so we got 1 van here for that. Right now we got a lot of finished guys here. We have the couple countertops going in today. We have the trim and flooring going in right now. And then I have a site supervisor that handles a lot of the day-to-day stuff for me here. First of all, fantastic at all the actual work, but handling, as trades are coming in, flow of construction. The biggest issue we have in here that we finally just start calling people now is they get lost. You kind of come out of a unit and you forget where you are. You can't find, somebody's like, I'm over here, and the whole thing just echoes, you can't hear them. So we need some walkie-talkies for the next one. So we'll come down into one of our last units here. So this can give you a little bit better idea of what these units were like. Every unit was actually relatively clean. They weren't in that bad a shape, but very dated. I mean, I love my grandma, but there's her wallpaper over to the left. Going back to talking about maybe differences between a smaller scale project and a bigger scale project, just the working space. We've had to set up using older units as a spray shop for our painter. It's reducing the amount of time he needs to spend physically painting things, but moving this stuff around, moving 16-foot pieces of trim is a bit of a challenge. So making sure you have somebody here coordinating it, and that's Mike for me. He coordinates the whole project and communicates with all the trades. This allows me to focus on what I'm best at, which is deal acquisition. So I'm able to acquire the property and manage the project from a high level, but at the same time, as things are progressing, I can already be looking at my next projects, knowing that these guys are working here doing all the day-to-day stuff for me. So this unit that we're doing right here, this is going to be our model suite. First of all, it has great lighting, one of the considerations my contractor pointed out to me, so that's going to show well. This unit also had a fire in it before we owned it, so it was in the best shape out of them all. So we identified that, knowing that there was the least work we had to do on the walls, so we were able to have this one done first. When we're going through these units, talking a little bit about pricing, if we head into the kitchen here, on average, my kitchens are, so these cabinets are approximately 3,000 installed, countertops about 2,000 installed. I use appliances are 2,200, so 3,573. So we're in fixtures, I'd say we're in about 8,500 per kitchen that we're spending. For each unit, it was about $3,000 for flooring, tile, and backsplash. We can pretty well double that with install, $6,000. The windows in this building were in good shape. We had to do new patio doors, $1,700 installed. Trim, I have to think about that. I think it's $1,500 to $2,000. I might be a little bit off on that one. Plumbing, every single unit was about $1,000, and electrical was one of our higher ticket items at about $5,000 per unit. So that's the general cost. When we head down into the basement, I'll show you that. So when we come into the basements, this was kind of just one open room. A lot of these tenants had people sleeping down here that shouldn't have been down here. So we have new electrical meters put in there, and we've just finished this space. This is really dark here. Let me see if I can get some light going for you guys. So we've just finished this space here, which It's no windows. This isn't a bedroom, but this is great bonus space. If you have a kid, if you have, people are just creating storage more than anything. These new condos are beautiful, but if you have a Christmas tree you don't want out year round, you're in big trouble. So the storage on these units is fantastic. Just coming around to the other side here, furnaces on this were in great shape. They were about 8 years old. Everyone has been serviced. We're adding air conditioning to every unit, approximately $3,000 installed. I mentioned earlier we paid out any rental leases on the water heaters. That's from an NOI perspective, making sure we have max NOI. We're going to have dual laundry right over here, so every unit has in-suite laundry. That's about the scope there.
When it comes to 10-unit buildings, what's the difference? A lot of us investors, we start off with small multifamilies and then we upgrade to a 10-unit like this, or we dream to upgrade to a 10-unit like this. What's the most interesting, I guess, story or weirdest difference that you kind of notice transitioning into the large multifamily space?
So when you really break it down to one townhouse renovation at a time, there's not a huge difference. The biggest surprise that I had was the first day I came here and there was 4 plumbers, 3 electricians, vans, so 2 per van. Yeah. There was carpenters, there was roofers, there was just general labor guys. There was 20 plus people here, and as I was walking through the building, people would point out, that's the guy, that's the owner. And I don't feel like the guy, I don't feel like the owner, I don't feel like this bigwig, but knowing that those checks that I'm cutting are feeding multiple families, that was kind of a cool experience for me. In terms of the actual project, the permitting's a little bit different. You're dealing with commercial stuff. It was actually a bit of a surprise to me. The building department even struggled a little bit because the magnitude of this project, they thought that we had to go to new code, but we were grandfathered into a lot of things. One of the biggest surprise that I had was that even the building department was unsure of things. Yeah. When I do my duplex conversions, they come in and they know what they want. But with this one, they had to come back to me on a couple of things, which surprised me a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey audience, I'm not sure if you knew this, but Kyle, he's actually only 29 years old. Yeah, 29 years old and taking down deals like this. So Kyle, I'm sure you realize a lot of my audience is younger investors or aspiring investors, and they dream of someday getting into a property like this, let alone at such a young age. Any tips or tricks that you could share with them as far as where to start, how to begin?
Refine your system on smaller buildings. I definitely, at this point, I want to be sticking with the bigger buildings, but I remember where I came from, which was the duplex, triplex, single family home. Refine your systems, get your costing down, get everything comfortable down there. But when it comes to moving up to these buildings, a lot doesn't change, but what I actually found is the people that I went to talk to were the most affluent people I knew. And even though this seemed like such a big jump to me, it was kind of small potatoes for them. And when you go up to this level, there's enough meat on the bone to pay those affluent people a good equity stake or a good interest or a lender fee, in this case, to finance these deals. So stick to your systems that you learned in the 2s and the 3s, and just add a 0 on the end of everything. And don't, even though it's a big deal for you, the people who are financing the deal for them, not that $1 million is chump change to anybody, but for them, it's not as big of a leap as it is for you. So stick to your systems, remember what you learn, and just add a 0 on the end. I hope that's not being too passe with it, but
yeah, no, great advice, and it's absolutely true. All right, Kyle, how much time are you spending here day to day? How much time are you pouring into this project? Because this is a massive project, renovating 10 units all at once.
Yeah. I can't give you an hourly, weekly thing, but what I can say is I'm not here every day swinging the hammer. When I was doing my 2s and 3 unit buildings, I demoed almost every single unit. I was running materials. If I had to paint sometimes or do something like that, I was being very involved in them because the deal needed me to be involved to get the profit margin that I needed. What I found here is I was able to move into a true real estate investor role. The classic, not working in the business, working on the business. So I do try not to be here too much. Candidly, hope the guys don't hear this, but they all start talking to me and not working. So I try to be here not too much, but I'm definitely here a couple times a week checking on things. In the beginning, I was here a lot more, but for example, in the thick of this project, I did a 3-week vacation to Europe.
Oh, wow.
In the middle of this project. So this is about having a great team of people. You don't nickel and dime your contractors. These are people that are handling one of the largest investments you've maybe ever done in your life. You got to pay these people accordingly. And also, you need to know that if you're doing a project in the middle of July and August, that's their busy time. You need to have your financing together, your funds available, so you can get these people on site. I know in August things got really tight. I started prepaying my contractors for certain things because they prioritize my job.
Build that relationship.
Yeah.
Kyle, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get in contact?
You can check out my link below at brrrrrealestate.com, or my email address is also in the link below, and all my social media handles are a link to the website. So anything you need, go through there, and I'd be happy to help out or answer any questions and connect with people.
Awesome. Check out the video description down below. Thanks again to Kyle, and thanks again to everyone that's ever came onto my YouTube channel, and I hope you guys are enjoying these compilation videos. If you are, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel, and make sure you check out the other amazing videos we've got on my channel, like this giant compilation video. So if you enjoyed this video, you're going to love this entire playlist, or just watch some great Canadian real estate education content right there. I'll see you guys in the next video.